Sometimes it feels like the sun will never rise, like the birds will never sing again. Believing a power greater than what you are going through. When you don't know what to do, keep breathing.
That's right. When you don't know what to do, just keep on breathing. From the City of Angels in Los Angeles, welcome to all my listeners out there in Radio Land. I am Dave, the Caregiver's Caregiver at caregiverdave.com, and we are coming to you live 24/7 on numerous syndicated radio and podcast networks, on 26 global audio and video platforms like iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, Spreaker, SoundCloud, Vimeo, Stitcher Radio, Blog Talk Radio, Castbox, Mixcloud, and oh my gosh, the list goes on and on. We are proud to be voted #1 caregiver podcast of the top 50 on Player FM, and #2 caregiver podcast on FeedSpot out of the top 60, and #2 caregiver podcast on caringvillage.com. And we have an especially exciting show planned for you today. Juan Williams. Juan has absorbed holistic health protocols all his life. From his early home in Battle Creek, Michigan, where I think a famous cereal came from.
Yes. Cornflakes, yes, cornflakes.
There you go. To the melting pot of Honolulu, Hawaii, my favorite place. As a journalist, Mr. Williams has been exposed to many unique health practices. What has worked for him is holistic protocols of past generations, family, and the understanding that what you put in your stomach is critical to your health. Garbage in, garbage out.
Yes.
Juan has a life education that includes an AS in mechanical engineering from the University of Hawaii. That's where I spoke there. And a bachelor's interdisciplinary business from Arizona State University. It's all of this education that Juan brings, and it includes his personal health crisis as well as the life challenges of others. Promote a total understanding of personal self-help. Before we get into that, I do want to thank my last week's guest, Orly Udai. She has more than 20 years of experience in real estate. She's an architect, rehab person, investor, realtor, mortgage loan officer. She'll tell you all about what you should and should not do when you want to sell a house for a loved one or for yourself. And just a reminder, you can watch or listen to Orly's interview and all our interviews on our membership website, caregiverdave.com, or any of our other 26 global audio video platforms that I mentioned earlier. Okay, enough of that. Juan, welcome to the Caregiver Dave Show.
Well, thank you for inviting me. Appreciate that.
I always like to ask my guests just who is Juan Williams and why was he placed on this earth?
Well, first of all, it took a long time to figure that out. And for many of us, we don't figure it out till later. And now I have figured that I've always been a good communicator. And when I decided to be in radio journalism right out of high school, based on what my teachers were telling me that I need to use this voice and make it something special, I got right into reading radio news on the local radio station in Battle Creek, Michigan, WKNR, WKFR. And, that parlayed into a career in radio journalism for about 15 years, where I volunteered at several different college stations, as well as worked at several different stations, including in Hawaii and on the East Coast at Yale Broadcasting Company. But I found that there was a glass ceiling at the time, so I decided to become an engineer and went back to school at University of Hawaii and became an engineer. But I'm back because this is really my personal connection, is communicating. And the fact that my zodiac sign, my astrological sign, is one that tells me that's what I need to do. A lot of us don't realize that our astrological signs have a lot to do not only with our path in life, but with our health. We need to understand that a lot of our organs in our bodies are connected to when we were born and how the stars were connected to you when you became part of this world. So in appreciating that and understanding that, that is who I am.
And do you also believe that our name that has been given to us is a powerful permanent as well.
Yes, and of course, my name, my full name, Juan Jose Williams, given to me by my father. After he had named his first son based on his name, Thomas James Williams Sr., Thomas James Williams Jr., he was looking at the future. The fact that the Latino community was starting to become bigger and stronger all over the world once again, because of course the Spanish at one point did conquer the world. They were, leaders of explorations and things centuries ago. So just understanding that and the fact that that was a chosen name that my father gave me, yes, it makes it very special, makes it very important. And it's important that I leave a legacy that is helpful and is educational to not only those that are my age now, but to the young ones, to appreciate that when they start their life, they need to follow a certain path based on what they should be doing. And the fact that I found out it should have been what I started with, I should have stayed with it. And that was journalism, communicating, and making sure that I could communicate well with others so I could help them.
Mm. Now you have an interesting story. You moved out of your house at 14 and you moved in with a healthy foster family. So
I did.
Assuming it wasn't a good environment that you were in. What happened to you? What that made you decide that, well, I don't know if it was your decision, but somebody decided you needed a new home at 14.
It was our decision, me, my brother and sister. We come from...
You all left together?
Yeah. We come from a lot of dysfunction in this world. And unfortunately, a lot of one-parent families, a lot of issues amongst parents, and it splits us up. But, my parents could never get along. So at some point, we decided, I just remember at 10 years old.
Are you the oldest?
Well, no. I was 10, my sister 11, my brother was 13 at the time. And we just had this meeting and this conversation about, hey, it's time to go. We can't concentrate on our studies at school. We can't really focus on our life coming up. So, 4 years later, I'm out. 4 years later, my brother graduates from high school. He's out. And I just take my sister with me to a former neighbor's home. And they take us in and we become foster children of theirs.
Awesome. And the parents were okay with this?
Of course not. No, that was a struggle in itself. But, it was a legal issue that had to be settled. So we had to go to the state of Michigan to have the legal matter handled by the state. And it took several months.
Agreed that it was a bad situation.
Yes, agreed there was an issue, and so we moved forward. But it was a good decision for me because, everybody involved, including my brother and sister, because at the time, we were just struggling with their issues. Their issues were more of a burden to us than it was a support. So we just had to move on and understand there's a lot of young people in that situation. And I want those young people to understand that they can make their own decisions young in their life to move on. They don't have to wait until they're of any legal age, like 18. They can move on and they can have help and support from those that they may have known from their past younger life. So just do that.
Did anyone have to get emancipated or not necessarily?
No. It was more of an issue of really just us going and staying and letting our parents know that we're here and we're going to be here where we're at and we're not going anywhere else. This is us.
It's an unusual amount of maturity for that age for any child. What do you attribute all that maturity to? Where'd that come from?
Well, part of it was the 60s, the fact that during that time we had a lot of very destructive things going on with our leadership, Black leadership being murdered and killed and assassinated, including, one of our presidents because he supported African Americans. Here we are, the last day of Black History Month, discussing this. But, of course, my issue has been just being a part of that and seeing that as a child and understanding it from the standpoint that it was an oppressive time period for everyone, not just parents. And of course, I'm sure that was part of my parents' issues was the outside world trying to destroy a family because of the way the structure is built, but also to destroy the children and destroy their future so that they cannot come up and be a structure or strong in the system. And because that's truly what I'm battling now. Later on, I'll talk about my book that's coming out called Why Your Lifestyle is Killing You. But at the time, our lifestyle was killing us. Whatever was happening with us at that time, we were destined to be either dead or in prison or in some other, ungood state. So it really was important that we moved on and found good people to be around so that they could teach us and educate us and help us with our future.
Yeah. So what about Battle Creek, Michigan, besides the cornflakes? What was unique about their history, health history?
Well, and most, I should say some.
We know about Flint, Michigan.
Yeah. Well, Battle Creek actually has a tremendous history of 150 years ago, right after the Civil War.
Nice.
The Kellogg brothers came to Battle Creek and saw, a place that they could do something with. So they built, factories and they built sanitariums and things that would help people with their health and understanding their personal health. They were Seventh-day Adventists who practiced holistic medicine, homeopathic medicines, used herbals and used the earth in order to maintain health. At some point, Battle Creek had as much as 30 buildings that were connected to a sanitarium or sanatorium, and one of the largest fieldstone buildings in the world, which I was so sad when they tore it down a couple of decades ago. But that was one of the places me and my brother and sister would walk by and just marvel at all those field stones, those rounded stones at this large, it was like maybe a 100 square foot building. It was beautiful. But going back to the Kellogg's, these two brothers just had in mind to make this city special, and they did. And they built factories based on the cereal companies and the Kellogg's and their initiative to bring good, productive, and healthy food to the people because they were not eating right. There was an issue, of course, of people's health. A lot of celebrities and dignitaries and presidents and whatnot came to Battle Creek, and they were part of their sanatorium. They would stay for weeks on end and get their self healthy. So just know Battle Creek has a tremendous history with that. And that's really where I'm coming from with my understanding, because as a child, I spent time on the old John Harvey Kellogg grounds where he used to have his mansion. And we would play around, where they used to have a racetrack for horses and buildings that were still kind of there with, silverware and glassware and things in the back, stuff that I didn't know. If I had just collected some of that and kept it, hey, might be a millionaire now. Who knows? But we just know that Battle Creek, its history was tremendous. Unfortunately, it didn't stay that way. My family was there initially because of that. My fourth generation grandfather was there because of that. He built his own house there with my great grandfather. And, they established residency for nearly 100 years in Battle Creek. So my bloodline has a tremendous history in Battle Creek, but the fact that it has gone down, it's no longer the strength that it used to be, the industrial strength, because the industrial movement is over. At this time, we're into the technical movement, and that has kind of made Battle Creek not a very attractive place to be, although they still are producing cereal there at Kellogg's and at Post and, at other places. Purina, I think, still has a factory there that makes dog food. They used to have an Archway cookie place there, all kinds of, manufacturing, as well as connected to the auto workers. I worked at the Eaton Corporation after high school for a little bit, which made automotive valves for engines. So that's Battle Creek.
Yeah. So let's talk about your book, because you're obviously a health nutritional person. Why Your Lifestyle is Killing You. What's your goal with this? What are you hoping people will get out of it?
Well, what I'm hoping is that people understand from the cover what the problem is. Because what you're seeing here is individuals that are a bit overweight. They have tremendous issues with keeping their bodies in a healthy state. And what we need to understand is that our food is medicine, which is the most important thing. Is that anything we put inside is going one way in and one way out. It's not like anything else. And once it gets there, it needs to produce something good. But as you said before, garbage in, garbage out. So if you're putting garbage in your body, yes, there's nothing else that's going to come out necessarily, because the body is somewhat of a filter. So unfortunately, a lot of our foods, they have so many extras and additives that they can do nothing but harm us. So we need to understand that as we move forward. And as far as my book being published, that has become another issue. You know, the book had planned on being put out a couple of months ago, but the issue has been the pushback. The fact that, you know, it seems like Western medicine is creating an issue for me to get this properly formatted and structured so that it can be put out in a proper sense, so that it doesn't look like it's something that is just thrown out there in any old form. So every time I get back to manuscript, it's like some things have been changed. Some of these other companies I've been working with, some of the editors, some of the proofreaders, they're trying to encourage me to change something. I'm like, no, that's, you know, what I'm saying is the truth. So allow it to be. So
this is not a self-published book. Who's your editor? I mean, who's your publisher is what I meant.
Well, at this point, what I was working with was a place called Urban Book Publishers. But what I'm seeing is it's more of the formatting issue now, where they're you know, reformatting it in a way that doesn't give it proper structure, and the gaps in sentences, the gaps in paragraphs, you know, they've redone the content, and I'm like, wait, you know, hey, that's not what I gave you.
Over this.
Yeah, I'm trying to maintain control. So, you know, it's just become a struggle. But, you know, as I said before, here we are in Black History Month. This was the month really I wanted to make sure that I released something that, you know, showed that, you know, although we are people that are somewhat suppressed in America, and there's always been a problem with that, you know, we can be successful as long as we are determined to do it. We just need to maintain and not give up. You know, unfortunately, there's a system out there, derivative system, that is designed to make sure that we do give up. And there are things that are so sneaky and they're so sinister that what I found, even in doing this book, that I have to watch every single thing, because suddenly I'll see something out of line. Like, for instance, I started a publishing company behind this book. And what the state of Arizona did was that they put my residential address on my business. And I said, well, I have a separate brick and mortar business address, brick and mortar business. How did that end up like that? So, and what that does when you have a media company, all of a sudden you're the focus. You don't want people necessarily knowing where you live. If you're writing things they don't like to hear, so then they focus on where you live. No, you don't want that. You need to keep that separate. So that was a red flag for me on how they're going about trying to keep this information out of the public eye, because this information is just the truth. It's nothing else. It's not political. It's nothing but just what it is. It's about holistic health, going back in our history and bringing it forward so we can live longer. Because when we go back to our patriarchs of Bible times, they lived 900 years. My goodness. They were having children when they were 200 and 300 years old.
Well, they were eating manna, heavenly manna.
Well, that helps. Yes, I'm still on, you know, looking on the ground for it every morning
from heaven.
Yeah. I'm looking on the ground every morning to see if it's going to fall.
Think about every morning. You can't skip a day.
Yeah.
So you have a podcast. You have a podcast also.
Pardon?
You do a podcast?
No, not yet. You know, that's something I'm looking at right now.
Something written down here called Fraternity Foodie Podcast. What is that?
That is a gentleman that I was interviewed by out of Tennessee, and you know, he's a college. Yeah, he has a podcast. You know, it's his connection to the university world and the college world. And you know, I just told the students basically, hey, you know, though you're young, you better think about when you get old.
Good, you're talking to young people, because you know they're sorely missing a lot of wisdom, and they're not respecting a lot of elders to get it from. You know,
well, it's their early money. You know, a lot of them did invest in Bitcoin and became millionaires just 5 years ago. All of a sudden, back in 2018, 2019, into 2020, when COVID happened, these kids found out when they looked at their Bitcoin accounts that they had anywhere from 100,000 to millions of dollars because they invested, maybe 10 years ago in it, right?
You're taking investment advice from a teenager now.
Yeah, well, that's one of the issues is, we have kind of a flip of the financial system. So, and they don't have the experience to understand what it is to be a mature individual. So that's where we come in. We have to teach them, how to take it easy. You're going too fast.
How are you received by these young people?
Not always in the best of, attitudes. Part of it, of course, is just dealing with individuals that feel like, because they have the money, because they, supposedly are able to do their own thing, that, and I'm still, so-called struggling, which is what they want to say. And it's not about that. It's really about the journey, which is what I tried to teach them. It's about the journey. It's about being on the path to success, and the fact that it takes discipline, number one, and secondly, patience, number two. A lot of them, they want it right now. They want to get it right now. If they got the money, they're going to get it right now. But see, in the end, there's a karma connected to that. And if you're doing someone wrong, that's going to come back to haunt you. So what I'm seeing is some of these young people, they're willing to do other people wrong so that they can get right. But in the end, what you're seeing, that sometimes there's instant karma and they fail at what they're doing. So they need to appreciate that for what it is. It's not about, pumping your chest and saying, I can do this just because I got the money. No, it's about looking at all the necessary things in life and making sure you're making the right decision and consulting individuals about your decision. Because for me, when I was 14, I asked God in prayer to help me make decisions. Now, at the time, as a 14-year-old, I had no idea what I was doing. I'm still trying to figure things out, of course, but I had the wisdom to pray about it. And I got some answers, which was, don't go so fast, take it easy, stop moving so quickly, stop making decisions that are going to cause you harm. It really helped me because I could have been in a lot of car accidents with people, just hanging out with folks. I could have been in issues where, would have been fights, confrontations, could have went to jail, all sorts of things that I saw that if I was there, I would have been in trouble. So, it really is a matter of being patient with your circumstances, not rushing to judgment on yourself.
So in the last 4 minutes or so, why don't you just talk about what you'd like to talk about and that we haven't discussed yet?
Well, in your questionnaire, you asked about, my experience as a caregiver. And in my book, I do write about the fact that I lost my brother when he was only 30 years old. And of course, that's an issue because, I was a young man myself at 27, and that was a difficult time for me. But here's what happened. It took maybe a couple of years. He had leukemia. And in the end, it was only me and him. And he was at a hospice, and, he was basically telling me, this may be it. And once he did pass, I went outside. And this is in my chapter on earthing, because it's important that we get close to the earth, that we make ourselves part of the earth on a regular basis. So, and I found myself leaning against a big oak tree, and suddenly I felt this wonderful deduction of my grief. It's like the tree and the energy of nature was taking that grief from me. It wasn't as bad as it could have been. I wasn't as destroyed as sometimes death can do to people. There's a lot of people that takes a lot of time to recover from death of a loved one. And sometimes they never recover. And that's why we see sometimes homeless people homeless, because they just could not recover from such a devastating loss. So we need to appreciate that nature is really important to us, because that's where we come from. God scooped the earth and made us. So how is it we don't need to be a part of it on a regular basis? That's why I try to bathe every week in water, put myself in something natural. I try to go out barefoot on the grass and walk around every once in a while. When I walk my dogs, I'm leaning against a tree, or I'm actually hugging a tree, putting my hands on a tree, taking my shoes off, my socks off, and getting my feet in the grass and dirt, so that energy, that magnetic energy of the earth can come through me and generate what I need in order to give me energy so that I can move on with life. Because a lot of times the negative energy of the earth and the fact that we're not connected enough just drains us and we can't move forward. So we need to appreciate that.
Great. We are connected, aren't we?
Yes.
Well, so where can people get a hold of your book?
They can get a hold of my book at www.wanwizdom, that's wanwisdom.com. And the book, right now, I just got an email from my publisher. They're saying it should be out next week, on the first week of March. So you'll be getting it on all of the social media areas, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and it should be around the world in all kinds of sources. So, but it's important that this book gets read by everyone, because the issue is 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we were in a very bad state health-wise. And the subheading here is how to avoid the next COVID-19. So let's avoid being really a victim of our own personal health problems. We can solve them ourselves as long as we view our life as vital to what we eat. Let's eat right. Let's make sure that we have more of a plant-based diet, more vegetarian diet, something that is, not just eating anything that satisfies us, but something that is helpful and healthy.
So you are healthy. You are at your goal weight. You work out, all that stuff. You eat healthy.
I don't work out. That's the other thing. My workout is walking. So workout, all this, all that. Yeah. I mean, you can look at me right now and yeah, it looks like maybe I do. But see, this is a body that eats right. It's not necessarily about doing all those exercise and all that calisthenics and all the Jack LaLanne's, for ththose of you who might remember Jack LaLanne.
Yeah.
Let's see, I remember Jack LaLanne when I was a little kid, but because he came on right after Romper Room. But that being said, we must remember that, even Jack LaLanne said, it's about what you eat. So, let's eat right. And then the body gets into its more natural state.
Well, what about the latest? It's not the latest. It's been around for a while. It's a modification of the Atkins diet. It's the keto. Eat protein, eat fat, and eat fruits and vegetables. Avoid carbs or minimize the carbs, and that way your body will burn the fat instead of the carbs. Stay away from sugar. What do you think of that? Is that a healthy recipe?
That is a decent recipe, but I still suggest that you focus on you. And more importantly, what's going to be right for you personally? Because a lot of people don't know themselves well enough in order to have a healthy diet or a healthy lifestyle and eating right. You've got to know what affects you food-wise and how it's going to affect you. If you're eating something
sensitive to dairy, some people are sensitive to gluten. Is that what you mean?
Yes, and people are sensitive to meat. They're sensitive to, all sorts of different types of things that we put in our stomach. We need to recognize that. And that means we shouldn't be eating it. For most of us, and I should say this, there's a book called Eat Right for Your Type by Dr. Peter Diadamo. And he says, nothing about pork, but just know it's not a part of any blood type of a meat you should eat. So it's not a religious thing. It has nothing to do with really, anything about worshiping anybody. It's about the fact that it does not digest properly, and pork meat is just not good for your digestive system. It doesn't add any intrinsic value. Let me stress that, intrinsic value to your life, to your system, to your body. Pork should be out. No one should be eating pork.
Got it. Well, listen, Let me talk about my book now. My newly released book, Secrets from the Hammock, Uncommon Wisdom for Uncommon Times, is spreading wisdom all over the world, available wherever books are sold, and also on my free membership website, caregiverdave.com. And you should be joining my Caregiver Dave Facebook community of 34,000 caregivers. I had to think of how many there were there, where you'll learn all about my new caregiver wellness retreat and mastermind in Acapulco that I offer to burned out caregivers. We're just trying to keep as many of those caregivers alive, since 30% of them die before their loved ones do. And if you click the like or follow button on whatever platform you're watching, listening to this interview on, it helps us reach even more caregivers by improving Google's search engine algorithms. So thanks again to all my listeners out there all over the world, tuning in every Wednesday and making us the #1 caregiver podcast on the internet. So until next week, same time, same channel. May God richly bless you all. Bye-bye. Hey everybody, it's Dave Nasani, otherwise known as Caregiver Dave. And I'm coming to you live from this beautiful Acapulco villa, which I like to say is the perfect prescription for caregiver burnout. And I have a unique opportunity to bring 14 burned out caregivers up here so that they can decompress and do all the things that they need to do. But this is just a bonus. It actually comes with the 6-month Zoom coaching program. It's a one-on-one consult with me, Caregiver Dave, to identify where you are and where you need to go. It's a 6-month small group coaching sessions to smash any obstacles between you and your ideal vision of what a caregiver needs to be and caregiver success. You get my 3 free books and instructions on boundaries, grief, self-care, organization, asking for help, learning how to say no, avoiding burnout, avoiding depression, avoiding perfectionism, avoiding isolation, avoiding resentment, delegation, team building, how to have fun, how to have no guilt, the importance of gratitude, and after caregiving when you're no longer a caregiver. But this 7-day bonus is absolutely free. It comes with the coaching program that you pay for. And the food is all inclusive. I'm telling you, 7 days and 7 nights here is amazing. This is truly paradise. And I highly recommend it. For more information, go to caregiverdave.com. That's going to send you to my other website. And if you want a shortcut to get there immediately, just go to acapulcodave.com. Thanks again. I look forward to seeing you in Acapulco.
Sometimes it feels like the sun will never rise, like the birds will never sing.